Today we are going to start our unit on trigonometry. We will work with trigonometry for a few months, and it'll start out pretty easy and it'll get more difficult as we go along, and you'll see some things will be easy, some things won't be so easy. So the first thing we're going to do is convert between radians and degrees, and these are just two different ways to measure angles. The way the relationship between radians and degrees is that 180 degrees is equal to what's called pi radians. The proportion we use to help us convert between radians and degrees is d over 180 equals r over pi. Let's practice using that proportion for this first problem below. It says find the radian measure of each angle whose degree measure is given. So it's going to be 30 over 180 equals r over pi. Now to solve this, we cross multiply. So 30 pi equals 180r. To solve for r, we divide by 180. And you end up getting r equals, when you type this in your calculator, please just type 30 divided by 180, not with the pi. When you type 30 divided by 180, you get 1/6 as a fraction. You do have to remember to stick pi back up in the numerator, so it's going to be pi over 6. And that's your radian value. Let's look at the next one with degrees. 90 degrees. So it'll be 90 over 180 equals r over pi. Cross multiply. 90 pi equals 180r. Divide by 180. When you type in your calculator, type 90 divided by 180 and you get 1/2. So 1/2, remember to put the pi in the numerator, is pi over 2. Now there is an easy shortcut to do these problems if you want. And it'll always work if you want to go from degrees to radians. What you do is divide by 180. So this next one. Divide by 180. And when I do that, divide by 180 and stick a pi in the numerator. So in your calculator, when you take negative 300 divided by 180 and change it to a fraction, you get negative 5/3. So your answer is negative 5 pi over 3. Using the shortcut again for the next one. Take 160, multiply by pi, and divide by 180. When you type it in your calculator, 160 divided by 180 as a fraction is 8/9. So your answer is going to be 8 pi over 9. I'm going to leave the other two for you guys to do it, and you can do shortcut way if you prefer. Moving down. Find the degree measure of each angle whose radian measure is given. This is going the other way around. Okay, so we'll start with the proportion. D over 180 equals my radian value, 2 pi over 3 over pi. Cross multiply. Pi d equals, and then you take 180 times 2/3 in your calculator, and it ends up giving you 120, so it's just going to be 120 pi. To solve for d, we divide by pi. And you get d equals 120. Now you're probably wondering, isn't there a shortcut for this way as well? There is. However, your problem has to have pi in it in order to use the shortcut. So the second one does have a pi in it. This is our shortcut we can use. You replace the pi with 180. So negative 5 times 180 divided by 3 gives you negative 300. I'm going to drop down to 7 pi over 2 for a second. 7 times 180 divided by 2. Notice I'm just replacing the pi with a 180. 7 times 180 divided by 2 is 630. Going back up to that 6 radians, that does not have a pi in it. When it doesn't have a pi in it and you're trying to convert to degrees, you have to use the proportion. So let's go back to the proportion here. It's going to be d over 180 equals 6 over pi. Cross multiply. Pi d equals 180 times 6 is 1080. And then you have to divide by pi, and you're actually going to type pi in your calculator. So when you take 1080 and divide by pi, and this is just going to be rounding, I'm going to get around 343.8 degrees. At this point, I'd also like you to try those other two problems when we get done with this video. You can do the shortcut way for the first one, but the second one you are going to have to use the proportion method for that. The other thing I'm going to talk about today is arc length. There is a formula for arc length, and you do need to know it. The formula for arc length is S equals R theta. And look at your picture on the right. Theta is the central angle, or the middle angle. R is the radius. S is the arc, or the arc length. One thing we have to make sure of is that our theta value is in radians. If it's not, we have to convert it first. So it says a circle has a radius of 10, so that tells me R is 10. We want to find the length of the arc, so I don't know what that is. But I know that the angle is 120 degrees. And I just told you theta has to be in radians, not degrees. So let's use our shortcut way to convert that. You have to multiply by pi and divide by 180. And you type 120 over 180 in your calculator without the pi, and you'll get 2/3, so it's 2 pi over 3. Now that I have my theta in radians, I can use my S equals R theta formula. S will equal 10 times 2 pi over 3. It's not specific, but if I want to keep it in terms of pi, I would take 10 times 2/3 in my calculator and get 20/3, so it would be 20 pi over 3. If I want it as a radian value, or as a decimal, I would take 20, multiply by pi in my calculator, and divide by 3 to get 20.9. Let's look at our next one. Find the radian measure with the central of the circle when the R is 7 and S is 15. And it looks like we're looking for theta this time. So let's plug into our formula. So 15 will equal 7 theta. To solve for theta, we divide by 7. So theta is equal to 15/7. I'm going to skip the next one. You guys will try that. And these next three are the same idea. And we are going to assume, notice the directions. It tells you that theta is already in radians, so we're not going to have to worry about that. We're just going to practice using the formula again. So S equals R theta. 16 equals R times 0.4. To solve for R, we are dividing by 0.4. When you take 16 and divide by 0.4, you get 40. Looking at the next one, for S equals R theta, it's going to be 21 equals 4.2 theta. Divide by 4.2. And we end up getting theta equals and 5. And finally the last one, it says find S. R is 6, theta is 2 pi over 3. 6 times 2 pi over 3 as a radian value, or in terms of pi, is 4 pi. 4 pi as a decimal is about 12.6. At this point, for the do now, you can do the problems that I did skip.